And I invite you to stand up for a moment of silent prayer. In the name of Jesus, we'll begin by singing hymn number 383 in the perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandments of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. With those thoughts in mind, we'll kneel down and have our opening prayer. And I'll invite Christina to lead us in prayer. So at this time, I'll invite Brother Jeff to collect our offering. Welcome, everyone. It is very good to be in the house of the Lord, to have another day of rest. This week for me was very, very busy, and I feel a little frazzled still, which is something that we're going to cover during our study today. The fourth commandment is something that, as Adventists, I think we take a little bit for granted, that we are to keep the Sabbath, and we come every day, every Saturday to church, and we're supposed to be worshiping the Lord here. We don't work, right? So it's something we're very familiar with. But I think there's lessons for us to learn still and things to remember. Okay, I don't know how to move this stuff. Better? Okay. So as we read in our key text, the commandments of the Lord are good for us. They make us wise and enlighten our eyes, convert our soul. They're perfect. So let's look then in the fourth commandment, as that is our topic for today. And if we go to Exodus 20, verse 8, it says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy." Why do you think God said, remember the Sabbath day? We have studied before, and as we started the series of the Ten Commandments, we have covered that this was not new. It was not new information. God had given the law. His law was already present. And so we have to go back to the beginning. We have to go to the origin of the Sabbath, which is creation. So we're going to look in Genesis and find out more about the Sabbath there. Genesis 1 shows God creating the world. In science, we have a law, the law of thermodynamics. And the second part of it says that nature is on a path of disintegration and disorder. But in Genesis 1, we see God actually putting things in order. So let's look at Genesis 1, verse 1 and 2. "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." So the beginning of the earth, things were not in order. And God now comes, and he starts to create, and his creative power, he puts things in order. And as we go down chapter 1, we're going to notice what he says. And it's interesting that God stops at every little bit, and he observes what he has created. So let's look at verse 10, 12, 18, 21, and 25. And since we're going to be looking at those verses, I'd like to ask for you guys to read it. I didn't put it up there. So open your Bibles, Genesis 1, and let's start with verse 10. Who can help me with that? Okay, brother. Can you take your mask off?
All the dry land, earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas. And God saw that it was good. Can you read?
Somebody else can read 12. Okay. Oh, Jacob has it.
And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed from his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw it was good.
So here we see when God first created the earth and he brought out the land and separated the waters, he said it was good. And now when he plants the grass and the trees and all the herbs on the earth part, he says again what? It's good. Okay, let's see verse 18. created here on verse 18. He created the sun, the moon, and the stars, and he stopped and said what? It was good. Again. All right, verse 21.
And God created great whales and every living creature that moved, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind, and God saw that it was good.
Again, when he creates now the animals, he stops and he looks at it and says, it's good, it's good. Now verse 25.
And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
So at every point, as he's doing this creation, he's stopping and looking, and every point of it has been good so far. Now let's read Genesis 1:31. 31. Genesis 1:31.
And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
What did he say here? When he ended the sixth day, what did he say? And he stopped and looked, and he said what? It was very good. It wasn't just good. It was a very good. Okay? Why do you think that he said that? Because if he had started creating the earth, he had seen what it was before, and now everything is in order, then it's a very good. God is a God of order. And that's what he saw. As he was created, everything was falling into place. And as he finished, it was very good. And so when he says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, there's something about that we need to keep in mind, because we have to have that order also in the Sabbath. The Sabbath is the finishing touch of creation. Do you ever plan a party or did a big project? As you are doing it, you observe that things are good. But it isn't until you're finished that you say, it's complete, it's done. And so it is with this verse. It was a finished work. So in chapter 1, and as we look through creation, how many times did God say it was good?
6 times.
6 times. And then now let's read carefully Genesis 1:31 and Genesis 2:1-3. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the 6th day. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Do you notice there how many times he says that he had made and that it was finished and complete? He saw everything that he had made, 1. The heavens and the earth were finished, that's 2. And on the 7th day, God ended his work, 3, that he had made, 4, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made, 5. And so he goes. All his work that he created. So let's go back to Exodus 20, verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Because we did something? We had something to do with this? No. He rested from what he had made. 7 times in those 3 verses, he says, this was my work. Can you imagine if God had created Adam in another day of the creation? And Adam gets up and says, can I help you? Can I help you regulate the air, a little bit of oxygen more or less? And we wouldn't exist. Can I help you create the trees? Everything God would have said, no, it's done. I've done it. I finished. And so the Sabbath will always be. It was and will always be a celebration of what God has done. Nothing that we have done. Now let's read. Okay. It says in Patriarchs and Prophets, it says, everything that God had made was the perfection of beauty, and nothing seemed wanting that could contribute to the happiness of the holy pair. The creation was complete. The great Jehovah had laid the foundations of the earth. He had dressed the whole world in the garb of beauty and had filled it with things useful for man. He had created all the wonders of the land and of the sea. In 6 days, the great work of creation had been accomplished. Let's go back to Exodus chapter 20, verse 9, 10, and 11 this time. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your sons or daughters, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. Why? For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So do we realize that the Sabbath is a celebration of the work of creation? The work that we had nothing to do with? What would that do for us? The Sabbath, if we rest thinking that we are celebrating that God took care of us, that he did everything for us, provided everything for us, then it's a Sabbath of trust, right? It's a day that we honor God, showing him that we trust him to provide for us everything that we need. It is a show of perfect faith. Patriarchs and prophets continue to say, after resting upon the 7th day, God sanctified it and set it apart as a day of rest for men. Following the example of the Creator, man was to rest upon this sacred day, that as he should look upon the heavens and the earth, he might reflect upon God's great work of creation, and that as he should behold the evidence of God's wisdom and goodness, his heart may be filled with love and reverence for his Maker. In Eden, God set up the memorial of his work of creation, in placing his blessing upon the 7th day. So it is necessary for us to remember. I know creation seems like a story that we tell our kids, and then it's part of the stories that we know and memorize, and we don't think much about it. But really, we need to stop and think, because otherwise we're coming to church on Sabbath, but for what reason? Just because it's something that we're told to do? How many times on Sabbath do we stop to think, I am here because God created me. Not only did he create me, he created everything that I had need of. That should create in us gratitude. That's what it says in this paragraph. That as we contemplate, we stop and we contemplate everything that God has made, we should feel gratitude for his work. The Sabbath was committed to Adam, the father and representative of the whole human family. Its observance was to be an act of grateful acknowledgement on the part of all who should dwell upon the earth, that God was the creator and their rightful sovereign, that they were the work of his hand and the subject of his authority. The Sabbath has always been and will always be a celebration, a reminder of God's finished work. And it should bring us perfect peace, rest in acceptance of God's provision. Psalms 116 says, "Gracious is the Lord and righteous, yea, our God is merciful. The Lord preserveth the simple. I was brought low, and he helped me. Return unto thy rest, O my soul, for the Lord hath dealt bountifully with thee." How many of us can say, like David said, "The Lord has dealt bountifully with me"? That's what it means to rest on the Sabbath. Is to acknowledge that the Lord has been more than gracious, more than merciful, more than generous in providing for us everything that we need, including salvation. The keeping of the Sabbath means that we are walking by faith. We are trusting that he will continue to provide for us. When we think about how many, and I've heard it before, people that say, it's hard for me to to rest on the Sabbath. My job doesn't allow me to do that. And we have to do a leap of faith when we say, I'm not going to work on the Sabbath anymore. And our bosses have to decide whether or not we're going to keep the job, right? So when we do keep the Sabbath, the way that the Lord has told us, we're showing that we trust God to provide everything that we need, even financially, to provide us with food and a job and everything else that we need. Not only spiritually, but physically, financially, everything. We walk by faith, not by sight. Do we walk by faith and not by sight? It depends on the attitude that we have when we come to Sabbath, when it comes to Sabbath, when we prepare for the Sabbath. Let's read Romans chapter 5, verse 1. This is another part of the keeping of the Sabbath, is our faith and our trust in this. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Do we trust that the Lord has provided for us a way and a means? Moreover, also I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them, that they might know that I am the Lord that sanctified them. This is from Ezekiel. And here we are brought again to another point of the fourth commandment. The fourth commandment is the last one of the first four, right? Which we are familiar with the fact that the law is divided in two parts. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. And then the second, love your neighbor as yourself. So the Sabbath is right in between. Are we able to show as out to the outer world that we keep the first 3 commandments? No. Not really, because if we don't say bad words, well, there's a lot of people that don't say bad words for many reasons, just because they're educated or polite, yeah. How about bowing down to idols? Not many people hear about down to idols, right? In our culture. So it's not really external show for the 3 first commandments. What about the 4th? Can you hide that you keep the 4th commandment? You can't. It's an outer show. If you're going to keep the 4th commandment, you're going to have to rest on this 7th day of the week. And people will see that you don't do any work on that day. There's just no hiding it. And so in keeping the 4th commandment, we show that we also keep the other 3, the previous 3 that came. Let's read again in Ezekiel. It says, "But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness." How did they rebel? "But I said unto the children of the wilderness, walk ye not in the statutes of your fathers, neither observe their judgments, nor defile yourselves with their idols." So here when God was reminding them that they needed to keep the Sabbath, Ezekiel 20, he also told them, you have gone astray, and you're doing what the other nations are doing, and you're bowing down to other gods and bowing down to idols. And he reminded them, "I am the Lord your God. Walk in my statutes and keep my judgments and do them. And hallow my Sabbaths, and they shall be a sign between me and you, that ye may know that I am the Lord your God." How do we know that the Lord is our God? That we put him first before anything else? By keeping the Sabbath. That's what it says here. Hallow my Sabbath, so that it will be a sign that I am your God. So when we say, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength, if we don't keep the Sabbath, are we saying that? No, we're not fulfilling the first part of the law. There's more to the 4th commandment. Exodus 20 verse 9 says, 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. And in Mark 2 verse 27, Jesus had to remind the people that the Sabbath was made for men and not man for the Sabbath. Meaning that they were to do what was lawful during the week and during the Sabbath too. That God wanted men to rest on the Sabbath. And that it comes down to the second part of the law also. Let's read. "Although all through the week we are to have the Sabbath in mind and be making preparation to keep it according to the commandment." We are not merely to observe the Sabbath as a legal matter. We are to understand its spiritual bearing upon all these transactions of life. So, Sunday through Friday, we are to remember the Sabbath. Here is where, as Adventists, maybe we need to pay attention. How many times during the week do we think about the Sabbath? But the Sabbath observance has a spiritual bearing upon all our transactions of our life. All who regard the Sabbath as a sign between them and God, showing that He is the God who sanctifies them, will represent the principles of his government. They will bring into daily practice the laws of his kingdom. Do you notice here then what it means to be a Sabbath keeper? I never put it together how the Sabbath is right in the middle of the law. And it upon the keeping of the Sabbath depends that we keep all of the other commandments in our daily life. So how do I love my neighbor as myself if I can't even rest on the Sabbath? I can't even love myself to take one day off. I am worried, I am stressed, I am always thinking about work, always thinking about building and creating something for myself here. If I can't stop and take care of my own health, my own body, how can I love my neighbor? How can I not be desiring more things? And with that, also desire and covet the neighbor's things. So upon the keeping of the Sabbath is that we can keep the rest of the commandments. It continues and says, daily it will be their prayer that the sanctification of the Sabbath rest may rest upon them. Every day they will have the companionship of Christ and will exemplify the perfection of his character. Every day their light will shine forth to others in good works. It's a relationship with our Creator. It's understanding that he provided for us everything that we needed, and that now he also provides for us a way for us to go to heaven. He provided his Son. And so we trust him, we walk by faith that he will provide for us everything that we need, and we live that faith daily. How do we live that faith? I think we're going to be going into that part of the law as we continue to see the other commandments. But I think it's very important for us to keep this in mind, that in all of our transactions of life, we have to be remembering the Sabbath day. In that same part, this is from Counsels to the Church. It continues to tell us that we need to be careful about the edges of the Sabbath. What are the edges of the Sabbath? When we start the Sabbath and when we finish the Sabbath. We also need to be careful in teaching our children that during those hours, we are to honor God, not just in resting our body, but also our mind. It says that we need to be diligent in controlling our mind so that we are keeping the Sabbath. We're not continuing to think of the things of the week. And as we have in this one, daily it will be their prayer that the sanctification of the Sabbath may rest upon them. On the Sabbath day or during the week? This sanctification of the Sabbath will rest upon them daily. So can we process that thought that every day of the week we will be sanctified by the keeping of the Sabbath? That every day they will have the companionship of Christ. we know and we are blessed by the fact that we come here on this day to be together and to worship God, and that He comes to meet with us here. But that blessing of this day should continue through the week, so that we will have the companionship of Christ every day. And in having that companionship depends that we will be able to exemplify His character. What does it mean to exemplify His character? Have you ever asked God to help you to exemplify His character? I remember the story that Christina said last Sabbath about the isolated member when the pastor went to visit, and she's like, oh yeah, everything is okay. But as the fly is flying, she's losing her control, her temper. Well, the same happens to us when we ask God, help me to exemplify your character. What will happen? He will show us the areas of our characters that we need to correct so that He can be reflected in us, so that people can see Jesus in us. And so those are the moments when we fall on our knees and we say, Lord, please help me, because right now I want to say and I want to do. I want to be righteous anger, right? But in our anger, in our defense, we're not righteous, ever. Only God is righteous. Only He can be angry and righteous. And so this paragraph was really touching to me, and I think is the key of the whole remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Is the remembering part of it. It's remembering every day what it means to come here this day and to set it apart. And it will also help us in the keeping of the Sabbath, because how many times we're sitting here during worship and our mind wanders to things that we need to do, maybe plans for next week, or maybe things that we didn't get to do last week, right? Or how many times we come here and we're so very tired from everything that we've been going through, all the fights and all the labors that we've had during the week, that we can't really rest today. We're just physically tired, that we can't spiritually rest. And Jesus said, come unto me, all ye that labor and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. When we remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, we remember that. We remember that we need to come to Jesus, and He will give us rest. Not just today, but during the week too. Of being able to trust in Him, that He will provide, that He will give us the strength to do what is necessary, and that if something doesn't get done, it may be because God did not want us to do it that way. But having that trust, that reliance on God, the Creator of the universe, that's what it means to remember the Sabbath day. To remember that He created everything, that He provides us with everything, and that He will also provide us with rest. But for that, we have to have that companionship with Him every single day. And of course, when God gave the commandments to the people of Israel in Exodus 20, just before that, He had set them apart. And we see that, I'm in the wrong place. we see that in the verses before in Exodus 19, verse 6. The purpose that God gave them the 10 Commandments. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. What was the purpose of God for Israel, for his people? And we have been studying this in the lessons too. The purpose was that they would be a separate people, right? A holy nation. A kingdom of priests. And that those around them would recognize them because they kept this law. Because they had put God first. And they trusted him to provide for them. So they would keep the Sabbath. And they would be shining light to those around them. And so that's the last sentence here in this paragraph. Every day their light will shine forth to others in good works. I think for me, I am going to write this down on a card and put it somewhere that I can see it. Together with the verse, remember the Sabbath day to keep holy. Because this paragraph right here, it's like key to everything that we do during the week. It's having that relationship. It's keeping the commandments so that we are visible to the world, so that our neighbors see us working 6 days of the week. We work, we take care of our home, we do everything that we can, we help others, and then on the 7th day, they see us go out from our home as a family and worship God. That on that day, we do things differently. That will help them see that I put God first, that I honor him with my words and my actions. And so that is the key for us. It is my desire and prayer that we will be doing this. Not because the Sabbath is illegal, imposed in us as members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but because we understand what it means. We live the trust that it means to remember the 7th day to keep it holy. And that we walk by faith, not by sight. And so this is the conclusion of our study today. And I had, how can we make it more clear? To finish, I thought we could sing together this song, The Temple Made of Time, which refers to the time of the Sabbath. Do we know it, or should we sing a different song, different hymn?
Oh, we can learn.
Okay. So let's stand up and sing together. God took 6 days and created earth and moon, the stars and sun. On the 7th day he rested from the work that he had done. And he blessed it, made it holy, as a gift for every man, to remind us where he came from and just how this world